welcome to the Round Table, which is my lunchtime little Thursday Facebook live stream event that I do every week. I'm sort of part of the Farm Chicks, which are a group of women who we do these little weekly live streams from our farm and fiber art studios. As long as the weather is nice, I thought I would continue to be outside, but I'll have to do one of these from in my studio soon. Today I'm going to talk about a couple of different things. Last week I talked a little bit about some color theory and matching yarn. A couple of people wrote in to me and said they liked that topic, so I actually dyed some yarn that totally didn't have to do with that topic, but at the time when I made the colorway, and now I see the connection to continuing the conversation about color theory and matching what's in your stash with what you're shopping for, and getting a great design going with your yarn, and maybe some of mine too. Anyway, so when I do these things, I want you guys to feel completely welcome and free to comment in, and Jenny, who is my videographer, will tell me if there's any questions to answer. And so I reward you for doing that. My sign, it's so humid, my sign is falling down. But if you make a comment, I will donate $1 to the Maryland Food Bank, because, you know, we need that. So what started the inspiration for continuing to talk about color theory is this particular colorway. I'm going to take one out of its, because I worked with white in the yarn. Now I'm going to put this white down on a white table that's a zinc white tablecloth, so you can see the difference between the natural white of the wool and the zinc white of the bleached tablecloth. This yarn is called, and I hope I say this right, I practiced, is called Miss Evenalls? Yeah, Miss Evenalls as a white cat. Miss Evenall as a white cat. It's spelled in a traditionally Irish way, so let me get you that spelling. There we go. See? Okay, yeah. And it comes from an old story. So this woman, she and her sister happened to fall in love with the same man. And as the story goes, there is kind of a complicated relationship between her very sort of aggressive sister and the fact that they both love this same guy. So and the sister turns her into a white cat so she can run off with the, and
Wait,
so,
say that last bit again. It was reconnecting.
okay, so the sister turns Evenall into a white cat so that she can run off with the guy, and Evenall cannot get him because she's a white kitty cat. And so this is my white kitty cat with all the little complicated feelings of her relationship to her sister and to the guy. So, cool story. Anyway, then I realized that we had been talking about color theory, and I thought, okay, that's a launching off point, because another whole thing about color theory is working with white in your designs, in your patterns, and matching yarns. Because when I'm at shows, I hear people refer to yarn colors in sort of not using incorrect terms, because they're all easy words. Look, Jenny, scan down here. Look, tint, tone, shade, color, here we go, hue, you know. So these are just my little handouts for today. But yeah, people talk about color using but they don't even apply the term the way the term actually means. And I'm thinking if they knew this sort of very simple guidelines behind these terms, it would help them pick yarns better. So Jenny and I made this little chart. So when you talk about a hue, which is the pure color, now I'm going to scan over to this one. This is my color wheel. So everything on this, so all of these are pure colors. This little relationship in the middle is about, you know, primary colors and secondary colors, and the outer wheel is tertiary colors. That's all right, you don't have to know that. But this is everything, every little element of color around this outer circle is a hue of pure color. So now when you come over here and you understand that, then it's easy to understand. If you take some pure color and you mix it with white, you get a tint. If you take some pure color and you mix it with gray, you get a tone of that color. If you take a pure color and you mix it with black, you get a shade of that color. So that's why that's the lower row and the influence from these and the action. So these are kind of like, yes, it's a noun, but it's sort of a verb. You know, if you're an artist, these are kind of a verb because you're probably doing the mixing. But you guys are going to be doing the knitting and the creating and the shopping and the matching of yarns between your stash and what you shop for and the pattern and the ultimate design. And so I think that folks, when they come into my booth in real life and they have a skein and they're looking for something that goes with it, or they have a pattern and it has several colors in it, they're wondering why something is not hitting the mark and why something else is. My feeling of why the find your fade and all of the work with those, just the complete celebration of design work that works in a spectrum is because working in a color spectrum is a formula that is always successful. So let me show you what I mean by that. So these were laid out as if you were going around the circle. So you can see that this color is kind of relates to going around the color wheel this way. Okay, so these are the circle just laid out flat. So a lot of these find your fate, and so the hue refers to this outer ring of color. You know, you could put your finger, if it were a continuum, you could put your finger anywhere on the continuum and find an example of a hue of perfect, pure color. So that's the way this page works. But the reason that find your fade and all of those and the designs that came after that one, the reason that they work is because they're running down the spectrum, whether it's in the category of tints. Often people refer to this as pastels, or it's in the tonal, and or it's in the shades. Oftentimes people refer to this as jewel tones. There's fashion terms for what's going on here. But that's why that works, is because there's a linear progression of color that makes sense to the eye. But it doesn't mean that every design, let me show you in a yarn. It doesn't mean that every design that you use has to be based off of the most simple formula of working with color. Like for instance, okay, this blue yarn was made entirely with what I would call a hue of blue in pure color, and then work on shading. So I just changed I just added other blue that was in darker shades, because I knew that then internally in this skein of yarn, everything would work. But now, let me...
Okay. Yep.
Do you have a question?
Oh, no, it was reconnecting. Now you're good.
Okay. So Okay, so what was last night Jenny and I were talking about, well then, Mom, she says, how do you match a yarn where something, she chose this yarn, which is Message in a Bottle. And she said, well, do these two go together? They both have blue in them. And you can do anything you want. But I'm saying if you want to work within a color theory formula that simplifies making color choices for yourself, I wouldn't pair these together right away. I mean, I would if I were just taking an artistic leap of faith and that's what I wanted to do, because, man, I do that all the time. But let me show you formula-wise why I would not pair these two together. Because if I come over to my color wheel, and my thing with the tints and the shades, this blue one, I told you how that was working in terms of that's on working within tints and shades. But this one is not. This one, yes, it's working on the tints because I worked with white and I blended color with white. But really, all these colors in this yarn, they're relating to each other because their relationships are of different hues on the color wheel. Not that their relationship is a relationship of shade. So yes, they're both blue, but they're different expressions of a color relationship, So this one is an expression of the color relationship of an actual color with its many shades. And this one is an expression of a color of many hues, many colors, colors that are next to each other on the color wheel. I know that if I show you this one more time, you can see that, there's this green is in there and some other greens are in there and some blue that's mixed with this green is in there. So this yarn is an expression of these relationships, and this yarn is an expression of these relationships. So I would say that's why it's easier to pair something. If I were going to take this Message in a Bottle, maybe I'd pair it with the white of that we were talking about, the white earlier, because then I'm talking about working with yarn that's all in about tints of white. So that might be a way to go. Not necessarily the only way to go, but a way to go. Do you see questions, Jenny? No? Okay, cool. I put all of these out on the web today on a tiny little discount. I'm building up to have some yarn for the fall. So the discount on this yarn is just going to go for the day. And this one I have to load on after I close my little yarn chat. And I got this one out because I was going to talk about shade as opposed to talking about tints. So, I mean, I thought it was really, really self-evident that if you look at this Miss Evenall as a white cat, you can see absolutely I'm working, I'm expressing color and their tints. And in this one, I'm absolutely expressing pure color and maybe a little bit of shade work, so they are totally opposites. But I mean, you know what? There is no rule. So you guys could match them any way you wanted to match them, but it is nice to understand these relationships, because if it clicks and makes sense to you, then you can do it sometimes, or you can break the rule other times. But it makes you take a look at your own stash in a different way. You might decide to get out, an armload of a collection of colors because they're connected to each other based on one of these relationships. And then I would say your pattern would work. If the pattern calls for, knit with this color until you get up to the waist and then build in a stripe, blah, 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 you've got something in your stash that would work. Or if you have half the yarn and you're out shopping for yarn, you now have some guidelines or some direction and boundaries and say, I'm going to look at yarn that does this. Maybe I'm going to look, the base or the background color is definitely a blue and shades of blue. So I'm going to either look at a pure hue or I'm going to look at maybe a black. But I'm going to stay in that color relationship. And then, the sweater works. You have definition from what, like if you had a stripe of a very dark, almost blackish blue, or you, let's say this as a base, or you could go in another direction, but because the relationship works, the sweater will work. So, maybe that's intuitive to people, but sometimes it's not. So it's kind of good to call them out for what they are. So that was really what I came on to talk to people about. Once again, I should probably say, our sign is turned upside down. Once again, I should, at the end of all of this, when I post everything, I'll count up the comments and I will put $1 to the Maryland Food Bank for every comment. And then also, I probably should tell you too, I will post these videos. If you forget the vocabulary words or the relationships that we talked about today, actually, Jenny, you can show this one last one. I mean, this may be another way for people to think about it. Pure color plus either white equals tint, plus either gray equals tone, plus either black equals shade. You can come back to this video by going to my YouTube channel. So I do have a YouTube channel. So the couple of things that I did this week was I made a link tree on my Instagram thing, on my little Instagram thing, on my Instagram account. So now if you're an Instagrammer, you can get to anything that you need that I publish, either the YouTube videos, my store, that kind of thing. If you're watching this now, you may already know about my Facebook business page. Go on in and join my Facebook group because that's where I publish little coupons and chit-chat with people on a sort of continual basis. I go there a couple times a week. I do have a little show coming up. I will do August will have one more chance for people to do an in-person yarn shop. I'm going to do what I do before and ask people if they'd like to come without anybody else here to shoot me an email and then kind of have one person every half an hour through the day or that kind of thing while we're during the pandemic. I have also another little bit of show news too. This week, the Shenandoah Valley Fiber Festival that I normally attend out towards Harpers Ferry and Berryville. It's in Berryville. They were on the cusp of canceling and it was undecided, and now they've decided to go virtual, and I will participate with them virtually. They're getting a new software that you can use to make the shopping experience fluid and easy, so that should be pretty cool. I guess that is my fall news. Yes, the next show here, these weekly chats, and the news on Shenandoah. So, if there's no more questions, I guess I could bid you all a fondue, a chocolate fondue. No, that's just a pun. Bid you an adieu. And I will see you next Thursday, I guess.